I'm Susu.
Hi, I'm Selina.
I'm Francesca.
As students have returned to campus this year, many of them have struggled to find permanent accommodation.
We wanted to hear from students who have been looking for housing.
If you are currently struggling to find a flat in Edinburgh, please contact the advice place at the University of Edinburgh.
Today we have two gentlemen from the Society Slurp.
I'm Lawrence.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Max.
It came to my interest that the organization's name is Slurp. Would you mind to explain a little bit why you guys choose the name Slurp? Like, what does it mean?
So we're a housing society. We campaign for action on homelessness. And originally when we were founded, we used to make soup and sell it. And then the proceeds would go to charity. But now we don't do that anymore. We still have the name Slurp, which was about soup being something that you slurp. So now we are called Slurp, Students for Action on Homelessness.
The campaign's like a new thing we started this year, obviously. It's still one of those ones where we're still like feeling out ourselves. So we started with a survey, trying to kind of use a survey to gather information about the crisis, using that to kind of gauge the magnitude of it and how it's affecting students. But we're just trying to kind of figure out how bad it really is and raise awareness of it in this situation, really. When we were going around asking students around campus for their responses, it was not a matter of, oh, have you been affected by the housing crisis? Please tell us how you're affected. It was more like, are you a student? Like, can you fill us in these questions? Some of them relate to housing crisis, some of them simply asking them what year they're in, to kind of amplify the voices of these students, which from what we found, a lot of them definitely feel unheard. So I think it's an important way to do these things. So.
Yeah, it's important to be clear that we're only a student society, and it's very difficult for us to produce, an academic level survey that can give really definitive empirical answers as to how many students are struggling. The point is more that we want to show that there is a crisis, because already we're receiving hundreds of testimonies of students who are saying they're really, really struggling. Really, it's up to the university to take on the responsibility of finding out more of what is happening with students, how many are finding their housing difficult, and then for them to take more action. So we're just trying to uncover initially the extent of the problem.
When did you guys realize this housing crisis is here, spreading across Edinburgh?
Well, we were both affected personally by the housing crisis this year, and luckily I have got somewhere now, but we know there are students who are still living on the sofas of their friends. You were affected as well.
Yeah, I mean, my situation was similar. I mean, I think at the time, I think it very much felt like the end of the world. My mother will attest to that as well. Like it was still a drastically stressful situation, not one I would wish upon anyone else. But I think I got my tenancy agreement, I think just 6 days before I was meant to be at uni. At the beginning of the situation, your first thought is, am I just being incompetent? I think as well. Like it's really hard to notice that there's just everyone else is going through this. It was all like whispers and stuff like that. And then as we've continued onwards, we started the campaign and stuff and collecting surveys. There's a lot of conversations with people, and they almost seem surprised. Some people, when you ask them, they look at you and they're like, "Oh, what, you know about this as well?" There's no response from there's nothing there recognition from the university or institutions that everyone will hear from. And even if there is, it's not been voiced loudly enough, because I'm yet to hear the word crisis from Edinburgh Uni, and I think you'd say the same.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, they've done quite a lot to say that there is a cost of living crisis, but we're not seeing so much recognition of the housing crisis situation. Already from the survey, we're seeing a lot of really worrying responses from the university. We've heard of people who've been told to defer if they can't find somewhere to live, which is very difficult because we have currently there's no indication that the housing situation will be any better next year, considering there was a crisis last year and it's only got worse this time. So the uni can't be suggesting to students that they defer, because they can't guarantee at all that the housing situation will be fixed by next year.
As much as every other person had something to say about it, and whether that was couch surfing, I know people who are couch surfing, I've been hosting people who are couch surfing, I've been commuting, but I think some of the most worrying ones, which is impeding the legality of certain agreements and stuff. So for example, one I was looking for through before was that every property over two people in occupancy has to have a HMO license in Edinburgh, and there's people who are violating that on multiple respects. People will be over occupying, people will be staying in box rooms and stuff. I know in my contract, which I imagine is generalised, although I'm not sure about that, there was a stipulation that if you were having a guest over 2 weeks' time, to abide by your tenancy agreement, you had to tell the landlord or the agency and let them know. And people have been staying in flats for weeks, so people are not only violating HMO licenses and tenancy agreements as well. Students are being forced into a situation which is totally out of their control, where it's literally making them risk their own housing and break civil agreements. concerning.
Yeah, we've had testimonies of people living in 5-person flats who've had 10 people staying with them for extended periods, which obviously has a very significant impact on people who own the flat and those who are having to stay on the floor or on the sofa.
I think what people commonly forget is Edinburgh University is one of the best universities in the world. They regularly remind their students of that. They use that to attract students in each year. It's an institution as well which owns a lot of property in Edinburgh. That they're an affluent university. They have lots of funds that are available to be used for supporting their students and offering education. And a lot of students are paying a lot of money to be here. So they have massive financial power and lobbying power as well to enforce change. And I think it's of our belief at Slurp that they should be doing that. They should be looking out for their students.
Like the university is the largest landlord in Edinburgh. And also, I mean, they currently will only guarantee housing for first-year students, but they must acknowledge that they have responsibility for the housing situation for other students, given that they own so much land in Edinburgh, and also given that they decide how many students they let in. Currently, there are too many students for the amount of housing that's available, and students assume when they apply to a university that university knows they'll have somewhere to live when they go.
Are there any additional information, any additional thoughts you guys wish to add?
We asked ourselves as well whether we should have pose a question about rent prices, and I think in the end we decided we weren't going to. And I think when we were kind of trying to justify it to ourselves and explain to the rest of the society why we weren't going to do that was because the way this issue is precipitating is acting on students currently. It's not a matter of looking at housing standards, things you'd expect, like living with your friends, location, stuff like that. That's not even the beginning of the issue. These are all things which should be taken really seriously as well. I think it's important for students to be able to live with who they want to, and also be able to live in locations which suits them. People have different requirements, whether they're on different campuses, whatever reasons they want. But it's not even a matter of you can pick where it's a matter of you can't get any housing.
There's definitely a class dimension in that students who can't afford to pay the really high rents will be having to find other arrangements, like couch surfing, things like that. It'd also be really useful to make the point that couch surfing and student housing insecurity is often not considered a legitimate form of homelessness because people just think of it as being part of the student experience, or it's just sort of fun, roughing it, living on your friend's sofa. But it should be recognised that it is a really serious issue. We've already seen from our testimonies that it has a very significant impact on student mental health and their ability to do their studies.
I think some brilliant testimonies regarding that, and I think one of them highlighted it really well. They basically said, it's this ticking time bomb. It's like, not only are you worrying about your studies, university, which the courses here are very intensive as they are.
It is.
It's, university's tiring at best, but it's like the whole time you've basically got this full-time logistical issue, which you simply cannot ignore. And you're worrying about overstaying your welcome, putting pressure on your social relationships. All of this is unnecessary added stress.
Thank you, guys.
I'm joined here with Layla today to discuss her experience finding housing in Edinburgh. So, Layla, would you like to tell me what is your current situation with housing?
So we weren't able to find a flat for this year, but I mean I've been quite lucky in that one of my flatmates that I was supposed to be living with is actually from Edinburgh, so we've been staying in her family home. So we probably went to our first viewing around April last year, and we've kind of been looking all throughout summer and kind of going to viewings and doing and applying places, but keep getting rejected because I think there are just way too many people at the moment. Whenever there is an HMO property, it kind of goes within a matter of minutes. The viewings book up and there's no chance of getting it. What's been really evident is that a lot of people who have found flats, I think especially finding them late in the game, is that they're finding them through connections. So either their uncle's neighbour knows someone who works in real estate in Edinburgh, and they get them that way. So that way they're getting flats which aren't even being put on the market. They're getting them through those connections, or they're getting them because they are offering to pay more in rent than what is asked of on the website. And I think both of those options aren't really a realistic thing for the majority of students.
How was it starting uni without a place to call your own?
It just feels quite uncertain. I think especially the days leading up to it was quite stressful because I kind of knew that on top of everything else, the kind of stresses of starting uni and all that stuff, there was also that added stress of finding somewhere to live, which kind of clouds your judgment a little bit, and it's kind of playing on your mind constantly. I think also I think something that I loved about having a flat last year was being able to come home to your room that you kind of like made your own little like sanctuary, I guess. And because I'm in someone else's house, I can't really do that. Like all of my stuff is still in storage, and it's just not the most, I guess, like comfortable feeling. Like obviously it's like really lovely of them to let us live there, but it's still not like our own place, if that makes sense.
Do you think there is anything that the university could do to help support students that haven't found housing yet?
Yeah, like I don't really know what the university can do. I don't know, maybe like subsidising some of the licences, because I know that they are expensive for landlords to get. I don't know, I think what's definitely not a good option is, you know, making people live in halls, in the common room halls. That was not a good option from them.
So I'm here with Genevieve. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. I actually noticed that you were quite eager to take part in this. Could you describe your living situation at the moment?
So I contacted the uni asking them for some form of accommodation. I've applied for like over 200 flats and just haven't even been able to get viewings. So the uni offered us this 6-bed sort of hostel style room. Yeah, so it's a converted common room in Pollock Halls. We're living currently, there's 4 of us in this room, and these kind of bunk beds here. Yeah, like it's been okay, but it's definitely like not the ideal situation to start off 4th year. Obviously, like 4th year is really important.
After quite a bit of correspondence with the uni, did they give a lot of options, a lot of support? Was this kind of like the only path you had, or like what exactly did they do?
So I emailed the uni multiple times, and like the first couple emails I sent, I was just ignored. And then yeah, progressively me and my friend sent like some slightly more heated emails, and this was the kind of only like option that they gave us, basically to live, kind of say if we don't accept this next offer of Shrub Hill, we kind of will be on our own.
I'd like to ask, if there were changes to be made, where should they begin?
I think like the uni should have an obligation to house its student body, but not just house it, but house them in an accommodation that kind of would be conducive to like doing a dissertation and actually like doing well in my studies. They will have like foreseen that the housing crisis is an issue. I haven't received a single email that said like, we appreciate that Edinburgh is in the midst of a housing crisis, here are people that you can reach out for support, like here's alternative paths. I've spoken to so many other people in similar situations who have been told to move to Musselburgh and get a bus pass, and just sort of like things that are really not like actual viable options. They know how many students they take on each year, and they know that they'll like the amount of students that they're taking on is clearly exceeding the capacity of Edinburgh. I know people that are spending £800, like £900 a month on accommodation, where a year ago it would have been like 400 or 500. Even like to get a flat, you're having to compete with people that are able to offer way more money or money up front, and like it's created this environment of chaos. Universities nowadays are run in such a way that it's purely really to generate profit, and there's a kind of disregard for student well-being and student satisfaction, and I just kind of have met so many people that feel really let down by the uni.
Have you found a place as of yet?
Yes, luckily I found a friend whose flatmate is moving out, so I have a place as of November 1st, but for now I'm couch surfing.
And what resources did you use while you were looking for housing? Did you use like Facebook, Gumtree, the Meadowshare, for instance? What resources did you use?
So I've actually just started using Meadowshare, which is no longer relevant because my friend has given me a place to live. But I used, Gumtree, checked every day, Rightmove, On the Market, Zoopla, all of them. Facebook actually led me into a scam. It was a landlord who reached out saying that she was in London, so she couldn't show us around, but if she sent us a video and the floor plan and a contract, and basically said, if you give us the deposit and first month's rent, I'll send you the keys. And so I paid the deposit, but then my other flatmate dropped out, so was left paying for the whole first month's rent, and then basically she said she was going to send the keys and just never did and has ghosted me. So what I've had to do is report it through Action Fraud, and currently trying to rectify it with the bank, but running into issues there.
Have you been in contact with the university? Have they provided you with any useful information or anything of the sort?
Not particularly. The advice place is somewhat helpful, but that's more so if you're kind of new to it.
I think it's harder for you to find housing compared to non-international students.
Oh, definitely, because I know a big thing is your UK guarantor, which I don't have, and my flatmate was from Hong Kong. She did not have one either, so it's really hard. And then if you don't have the guarantor, they ask for the 6 months rent or something up front. Like, I don't have that kind of money. I'm a student. Usually, they would typically pick like a resident over an international student for their properties. So I've been rejected from a ton of properties.
Has your social life taken a toll as well with finding housing? Because I'm sure with all the viewings and applications that you're putting through as well as your studies, I was just wondering if you're okay to talk about it, obviously, how your social life, if it has had any impact.
I'd say minorly. It is, again, incredibly difficult. Like, if I want to go out, living out of my suitcases, it's hard to like get arranged, like, oh, I want to wear this or I want to wear that, because it's all in the suitcase and it makes everything a mess. More socially, I'm on a committee, so I do have to be there, but it's usually a lot harder with with the two people I'm living with, thankfully for them, for letting me stay there, but they have their 2 sets of keys, and I need to arrange with them to make it so whoever has keys can get back into the flat. So the past 2 weeks I've had to leave early from events because it's like I don't want to stay out too late and then have to have this person who works at 6 a.m. have to stay up late.
Would you mind to share with us what is your current living situation is like?
At present, I have got some a temporary kind of accommodation with an Indian family. I'm still looking for an accommodation, really struggling big time. In fact, I have been struggling from the time I've come here. I have tried various apps. I have gone through the Spare Room, Zoopla, Gumtree, everywhere I have put up. Somehow, no one seems to respond back. I've found very few responses. And then after that, what I did was look for on Facebook was a big support actually, because I found different groups, student groups in Facebook. And that kind of was a little bit more helpful as compared to most of those apps.
Yeah, so you were saying that you find this Indian community on Facebook.
Correct.
And they were letting you some short-term accommodation, if I am correct.
Correct, yeah.
And now how many places have you lived in since you arrived in Edinburgh?
3 places.
3 places.
And it's been only a month that I have arrived.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's only been a month.
Did
you try to look for support from the Edinburgh, from Edinburgh itself, for example, Edinburgh Council or any local communities?
No, not really, because I'm not really aware of if there is any kind of support. Mm-hmm. Although I am planning to approach my university if nothing else works. Mm-hmm. Now that's kind of my last that I might go to and approach the student council at my university and see if I can get some kind of support there. Maybe at least some contacts of students who are also struggling, and then we can club together and find a place.
Okay.
I have tried everything. I don't know what else to do. I don't know anybody here. It has been extremely stressful, very, very stressful. And now it is slowly starting to affect my mental health, because it's just that you never know where, every second day you're just picking up your bag and moving, and at the same time you have the pressure of studying and coping up with your course content. It's not a very easy thing to do.
No.